So yeah, really appreciate working with you Tristan, on the penetration test of your ISMS Policy Generator and Copilot. And during this conversation, just want to kind of go over what we did at a high level and help identify, some of the pain points that you were facing, some of your concerns, and then also go, talking about at a high level what the test was and kind of what the deliverables you got at the end were. Yeah, so that's what I'd love to chat about. So can you start with
Sure.
just explaining briefly like what your business objectives are and, how security plays into that as as a security tool yourself?
Sure. Thanks a lot, Walter. So basically, penetration test that we conducted was on two systems. The first one is a policy generator. So it's an application that allows the user to fill a form, and then at the end of filling the form, they receive a policy by email. And then, of course, my goal is to make sure that actually uh, the generator generates the expected elements. So if the user provide inputs about their company for an acceptable use policy, I want that in the end, the output is a Word document that is the acceptable use policy. And this is why it was of my interest to conduct the penetration testing, because I wanted to know in the end what are the misuse that can be done with my generators. Can actually a threat actor use the generator to generate another policy? Or can they click 100 times on generating a policy and will it generate 100 times the policy and then costing me more money than expected? So of course, there are over vulnerabilities, but this is the kind of information I was looking for. What can happen if someone tries to misuse my generator? And on the other side, I had a chatbot that is called the ISO 27001 Copilot. And I wanted to know as well what were the potential ways it could be misused, and I think that the Sentry team's work has been really useful to help to understand what were the vulnerabilities it was exposed to, and what are the controls I could implement to actually make sure the chatbot behaves as expected, which was providing useful information on ISO 27001. That was the main goal.
Awesome. Awesome. So in terms of, it sounds like availability for your data and your resources was the top priority. In terms of integrity and confidentiality, did you have any requirements there that you were specifically focused on?
Yeah, sure. Actually, the three dimensions of the CI triad are really important. But in integrating, for example, with the generators, when a user fill a form, for example, network security policy, you want to make sure that what's generated at the end is really the network security policy, and that the inputs provided by the users are actually included in the output generated by the application. So this is where understanding how how actually any misuse could have an impact on the performance of the generators. I don't want that a threat actor can inject some malicious code, for example, in the generators, and then what can happen is that maybe the policy generators won't work properly for another user. They would those so here I would have integrity affected, and of course then I mean confidentiality. I want to make sure that the inputs entered by the user in one generator are not going to someone else. Of course, that the policy is not displayed to any other user. This is what I care about, and that of course the information entered in the forms are protected end to end to make sure that only the admins can or the end user have access to it, but no one else. So of course this is also part of the equation.
Got it. Got it. Thank you for that overview. And at StackAware, we're really focused on driving business outcomes with security testing and governance. So it's important to understand those up front before we get into any sort of evaluation process. Can you say a little bit
Correct.
about the test and your perspective of how it went and what some of the differences from kind of a traditional penetration test might have been?
So what I really appreciated with the StackAware penetration test is that they focused on a library of vulnerabilities that are focused on AI systems. So the best example I have is with the ISO 27 Copilot. What we did is that look at several the most relevant vulnerabilities that could affect the system, and then try these ones. That is, for example, injection of some malicious prompts that in the end could try to let's say bypass the ethical barriers implemented in the bot, and actually give them, I mean, make them produce instructions for doing some things that aren't legal. So, and as a business owner, you want to make sure that your bot won't share illegal information. So focusing on such kind of vulnerabilities as compared to, of course, official penetration testing that don't cover these aspects is really important. And then something else I would like to mention that has been really useful is the way the likelihood of the vulnerability is expressed is really interesting. I know, of course, Walter, you can maybe explain better because in the end it's your system. But the fact to tell me, we expect that in the end, 1 out of 500 users are expected to exploit this vulnerability. This is something that has been really useful. So, of course, maybe you want to elaborate here a little bit, but I really liked it.
Awesome. Yeah. So the way we do our penetration tests and our risk analyses is with the AI risk scoring system, which combines annual rate of occurrence for a given risk materializing. So like you described, how often a certain type of user will be able to exploit a vulnerability, how many times that user will be malicious in his intent, and then we multiply it by the business impact if that's something that we can get access to, or something that we can calculate in terms of dollars. So the outcome will either be just a probability or a likelihood of something occurring over a given year, or a annual loss expectancy in terms of dollars based on the business impact for that given vulnerability being exploited.
Correct.
So is there anything else you'd like to share? This is just a quick overview of your experience, and just wanted to see if there's anything else you wanted to touch on before we sign off.
I would say that I really recommend over people that have an AI application to undergo such kind of penetration testing, because of course you can try to identify the threats that your system is exposed to, but unless you actually go through this process, it's not concrete enough, I would say. And you can always identify and implement better controls that will especially tackle the risk your specific systems are facing. And I believe that such kind of penetration testings focused on AI vulnerabilities are the best ways to identify these risks. And so I invite anyone with such AI systems to consider such kind of testings.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate working with you. It was a great experience, and wish you and your company the best of luck. It's an important mission, and we're kind of tackling two sides of the same coin. You're doing AI for security, and we're doing security for AI. So definitely interested in continuing to collaborate in the future.